First Contact's Deception. Commander Elena Vasquez stood at the bridge of the EDS Prometheus, her expression carefully neutral as she watched the Araxian Federation's diplomatic fleet approach Earth. The aliens thought they were making first contact with a primitive species barely capable of reaching their own moon. They couldn't have been more wrong. "They're scanning us again," Lieutenant Sarah Chen reported from her station, amusement evident in her voice. "Standard electromagnetic sweep. Should I let them see past the facade this time?" Elena allowed herself a small smile. For the past century, humanity had maintained an elaborate deception, broadcasting false signals and maintaining the appearance of a civilization just beginning to reach for the stars. The truth was far more interesting. "Not yet," Elena replied, watching the elegant crystalline ships of the Araxian Federation move into high orbit. "Let them complete their evaluation protocol first. We've waited this long. We can wait a few more hours." The real Earth, hidden behind layers of temporal distortion and quantum camouflage, was a far cry from the holographic projection the aliens were currently scanning. Instead of a planet dotted with primitive satellite networks and early-stage solar collection arrays, the actual Earth was encased in a Dyson swarm of such complexity that most spacefaring races couldn't even comprehend its purpose. "Commander," the ship's eye, Atlas, manifested as a subtle blue glow in the corner of her vision. "The Araxians are preparing to broadcast their first contact message. Based on their positioning and energy signatures, they're following the standard Galactic Council protocols for engaging with pre-spaceflight civilizations." Elena nodded, remembering the briefings about this moment. Humanity had been preparing for it ever since they discovered the truth about their place in the galaxy. The archaeological dig in Antarctica that changed everything. The temporal beacon left by their own descendants, warning them about what was coming. "All stations, prepare for protocol revelation," Elena announced, her voice carrying across the bridge. "Lieutenant Chen, begin quantum sync with the defensive grid. Captain Rivera, signal the fleet. It's time to wake up." Throughout the solar system, hidden beneath layers of space-time itself, humanity's true power began to stir. The massive battleships of the Earth Defense Force, each one a testimony to what humanity could achieve when pushed to its absolute limits, powered up their temporal cores. The Araxian transmission began, broadcasting on simple radio frequencies. "People of Earth, we come in peace as representatives of the Galactic Council." Elena waited for precisely the right moment, counting down in her head. The Araxians had to be in exactly the right position for maximum effect. Their sensors had to be at full power, their attention completely focused on the holographic Earth below. "Now," she commanded. The facade fell away like a curtain of mist, revealing the truth in an instant. The primitive satellites disappeared, replaced by the gleaming architecture of humanity's real orbital infrastructure. The simple radio transmissions vanish, replaced by the intricate quantum communications network that spanned the solar system. And around the Araxian fleet, space itself seemed to part as the Earth Defense Force revealed itself. The EDS Prometheus, already larger than the entire Araxian diplomatic fleet combined, was just one of hundreds of vessels that emerged from their temporal pocket. Elena opened a channel to the stunned alien fleet, broadcasting in perfect Araxian. "Welcome to Earth. We apologize for the deception, but we had our reasons. Perhaps now we can begin real negotiations about the threat that's coming for all of us." Through the quantum glass viewport, Elena could see the Araxian ships hanging motionless in space, their crystalline structures reflecting the light of Earth's sun. She could almost imagine their shock, their disbelief at finding not a primitive civilization, but one that had mastered technologies their scientists had deemed impossible. The response from the Araxian flagship was delayed by several minutes during which Elena knew their sensors were working overtime, trying to understand what they were seeing. Finally, a response came. "Earth vessel, this is impossible. Our studies showed your civilization was barely capable of reaching your moon." "How?" "Nothing is impossible," Elena replied, thinking of the temporal beacon that had set humanity on this path. We simply had better teachers than you might imagine. Now, shall we discuss the real reason we've maintained this charade for so long? There's something coming from the dark between galaxies, Ambassador. Something that's been hunting civilizations like yours for longer than either of us can comprehend. The silence that followed was heavy with implication. Elena knew that what came next would reshape the galaxy forever. Humanity had prepared for this moment for generations, building up their strength in secret, waiting for the right time to reveal themselves. Lieutenant Chen, prepare the temporal imaging array, Elena ordered. It's time to show our new friends exactly what we're all up against. As the holographic displays came to life, showing the terrible truth that humanity had discovered in that Antarctic ice so long ago, Elena couldn't help but wonder how the Araxians would react. Their entire understanding of the universe was about to change, just as humanity's had, the day they realized they weren't alone in the universe, and that something vast and hungry was slowly making its way toward them all. The real first contact was about to begin. The temporal shield. The Araxian ambassador, first speaker Lyra, stood in the observation deck of the EDS Prometheus, her crystalline form refracting the light from Earth in mesmerizing patterns. Elena watched as the alien diplomat struggled to process what she was seeing. The true face of human civilization. Your temporal manipulation technology. Lyra began, her translator converting her harmonic speech into precise English. It violates every known law of physics. Our scientists have proven it impossible. Elena gestured to the holographic display showing Earth's Dyson swarm, each node pulsing with energy that defied conventional understanding. Impossible is just another word for not yet understood, Ambassador. We learned that lesson the hard way. The hologram shifted, showing an image that had changed the course of human history. The temporal beacon discovered in Antarctica. The artifact, a quantum crystalline structure that somehow managed to send information backward through time, had been buried in the ice for millions of years, waiting for humanity to find it. 150 years ago, Elena explained, we found this. At first, we thought it was alien technology, perhaps left by ancient visitors. The truth was far more surprising. It was human technology, sent back in time by our own descendants. Lyra's crystalline structure vibrated in what Elena had learned was an expression of shock. You're saying humans from the future sent you advanced technology. The temporal paradox alone would be impossible to resolve. Elena smiled. That's what we thought too. But the beacon didn't contain technology. It contained knowledge, warnings, mathematical proofs that showed us where to look, what to study. It showed us what was coming. The hologram changed again, displaying a vast darkness moving between the galaxies. Even in this sanitized form, the image was disturbing. A void that seemed to consume not just light, but reality itself. We call them the Devourers, Elena continued. They've been moving through the universe for billions of years, consuming civilizations that grow too noticeable. The beacon warned us that in the original timeline, they found us because we joined the Galactic Council too soon, became too visible. Lieutenant Chen's voice interrupted from the bridge comm. Commander, the quantum arrays are detecting unusual activity in the Oort cloud. The patterns match those described in the beacon's data. Elena's expression hardened. They're early, Ambassador. I know this is overwhelming, but we need your decision now. The Araxian Federation can either join us in what's coming, or we can help you hide your civilization before it's too late. Lyra's crystalline form pulsed with rapid color changes. Anxiety, Elena had learned. You speak of hiding entire civilizations. Even with your temporal technology, how could you possibly? The same way we hid Earth, Elena interrupted, gesturing to a new hologram, showing the massive temporal shield generators orbiting the sun. We've spent generations preparing not just defenses for ourselves, but for others. The beacon warned us that unity is the only way to survive what's coming. The Araxian ambassador moved closer to the hologram, her crystalline appendages tracing the complex geometries of human temporal engineering. These designs, they're beautiful, but the energy requirements alone would be beyond anything you thought possible. Elena finished. That's why we had to hide. Every breakthrough we made, every impossible barrier we broke through, would have drawn their attention. The beacon showed us that in the original timeline, humanity joined the galactic community, shared our innovations openly, and drew the devourers straight to our sector of space. More alerts sounded from the bridge. Lieutenant Chen's voice was tense. "Commander, quantum disturbances are increasing. Whatever's out there, it's getting closer." Elena turned to Lyra, her expression grave. "Ambassador, I need your answer. The Araxian Federation represents nearly a third of the Galactic Council's military strength. With your help, we might have a chance against what's coming. Without it..." Lyra's form settled into a rigid crystalline pattern, a sign of decision. "The Federation's scientists have detected anomalies in deep space for decades. Dark regions where stars simply vanish. We thought they were natural phenomena. They're not," Elena confirmed. "They're feeding grounds, and now they're heading this way." The ambassador's next words came slowly, deliberately. "Tell me what you need from the Federation, Commander Vasquez. If what you say is true, if these devourers are real, then we face extinction without unity." Elena nodded, relief visible in her features. "Lieutenant Chen, transmit the temporal shield specifications to the Araxian fleet. Ambassador, what you're about to see is just the beginning of what humanity has been preparing. The real question is, are you ready to learn what's really possible?" As the data transfer began, Elena could see the Araxian ship's energy signatures changing, their sensors struggling to process the information they were receiving. She knew that across their fleet, scientists were having their understanding of physics rewritten in real time. But they didn't have time for gentle revelations anymore. The devourers were coming, and humanity's carefully maintained deception was about to give way to something far more important: the first true alliance between Earth and the stars. The coming storm. The next 48 hours aboard the EDS Prometheus were a blur of activity. Elena watched as human and Araxian crews worked together, integrating their technologies in ways that would have seemed impossible just days ago. The Araxians' mastery of crystalline computing meshed surprisingly well with human temporal systems, creating hybrid systems more powerful than either civilization had achieved alone. "The temporal shielding is at 70% coverage of the Araxian home systems," Lieutenant Chen reported, her hands dancing over the quantum interface. "Their engineering teams are learning the principles faster than we anticipated." Elena nodded, studying the strategic display. Across 20 light-years of space, a new kind of defense grid was taking shape. Human temporal technology combined with Araxian crystal matrices created a barrier that could hide entire star systems from the approaching darkness. "Commander," Atlas materialized beside her, his holographic form flickering with unusual urgency. "Long-range temporal sensors are detecting significant disturbances. The Devourer's arrival window has shifted. They're moving faster than the beacon predicted." Elena felt her blood run cold. How much faster? "At current velocities, they'll reach the outer edge of Araxian space in 72 hours. Original projections suggested we had at least 2 weeks." Ambassador Lyra's crystalline form pulsed with alarm frequencies. "That's not enough time to complete the temporal shield network." "My people will be protected," Elena interrupted firmly. "Atlas, show me the deployment pattern of the Earth Defense Fleet." The strategic display shifted, showing hundreds of human vessels moving into position around key Araxian worlds. Each ship carried within it a temporal core capable of generating localized time fields, bubbles of altered spacetime that could hide entire planets from view. "We've been preparing for this moment for generations," Elena reminded them. "Lieutenant Chen, transmit Emergency Protocol Omega to all Earth Defense Fleet vessels. Ambassador Lyra, I need you to send word to your government. Every ship, every station, every orbital platform in Araxian space needs to power down on our mark. The temporal fields won't work if there's active quantum interference. As orders were relayed and preparations made, Alina found herself drawn to the main viewport. The Earth hung below them, beautiful and seemingly vulnerable, yet protected by layers of technology so advanced it appeared magical even to their new allies. "Commander," Chen's voice was tight with controlled tension. "We're detecting quantum wake signatures consistent with Devourer Scout entities, 3 light years out and closing." Alina straightened her uniform. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since finding the beacon. "Atlas, initiate full-spectrum quantum camouflage. Ambassador Lyra, your people need to be ready. Once we engage the temporal fields, you'll have approximately 20 minutes where your entire civilization will appear to cease existing." The psychological impact. "We'll handle it." Lyra's response was firm, her crystalline structure settling into what Alina had learned was a war pattern configuration. "My people are warriors, Commander Vasquez. We fought the darkness between stars before, even if we didn't know what it truly was. We're ready." The strategic display suddenly flared with new contacts. The Devourer's scout entities were moving faster now, their void-black forms visible even at this distance. They moved like tears in reality itself, consuming light and matter as they passed. "All Earth Defense Fleet vessels report ready," Chen announced. "Temporal cores at maximum charge. Araxian Fleet reports full compliance with power-down protocols." Alina took a deep breath. Everything humanity had built, every secret they had kept, every impossible technology they had developed in hiding, had led to this moment. "Atlas, begin final countdown." "Ambassador Lyra, it has been an honor. I hope we'll see each other again when this is over." "The honor is ours," Lyra replied, her form glowing with determination. "Humanity has shown us that impossible is merely a challenge to be overcome. Together, we will prove that to the darkness itself." The countdown reached 0. Across 20 light-years of space, hundreds of temporal cores activated simultaneously. Reality itself seemed to fold, creating pockets of altered space-time that hid entire star systems from view. The combined civilizations of humanity and the Araxian Federation, with all their worlds and ships and people, vanished from normal space. Through specially shielded sensors, Alina watched as the Devourer scouts passed through now empty space where Araxian worlds had been moments before. The void-black entities moved like hungry predators, searching for the light and energy signatures that had drawn them to this sector. But for the first time in their ancient history, the Devourer's hunt came up empty. Their prey had learned to hide in the folds of time itself. As the scout entities moved on, Alina allowed herself a small smile. This was only the beginning, the first test of humanity's temporal defenses against the ancient threat. The real battle was still to come. "All stations," she announced, her voice carrying across the bridge, and to every human and Araxian ship in the hidden fleet, "prepare for Phase 2. The Devourers think they're the hunters. It's time to show them how wrong they are." Breaking point. The temporal pocket containing Earth's fleet and the Araxian worlds hung like a soap bubble in the fabric of space-time, invisible to normal space, but humming with potential energy. Inside this engineered realm, Alina and her crew watched through quantum-shifted sensors as the main body of the Devourer fleet approached. "By all the crystal matrices," Ambassador Lyra whispered, her form pulsing with fear frequencies as the data streamed in. "There are thousands of them." Alina studied the tactical display grimly. The Devourer's main fleet was even larger than the beacon had warned, vast geometric shapes of absolute darkness that consumed everything in their path. Space itself seemed to warp around them, reality bending away from their unnatural presence. "Atlas," Alina called, "show me the quantum resonance patterns of their approach vector." The AI complied, displaying complex waveforms that represented the Devourer's interaction with space-time. Alina had studied these patterns for years, but seeing them in real time was different, more terrifying, more final. Commander, Lieutenant Chen's voice cut through her thoughts. The temporal field is showing signs of strain. The Devourer's presence is affecting local spacetime more than we anticipated. We have maybe 30 minutes before the field becomes unstable. Elena nodded grimly. They'd known this moment would come. The temporal pocket was never meant to be a permanent solution. It was a staging ground for humanity's real plan. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Begin charging the chronosphere arrays. Ambassador Lyra, your people need to be ready. What we're about to attempt has never been done on this scale. The ambassador's crystalline form shifted into battle configuration. The Araxian fleet stands ready, Commander, though I still don't fully understand what you're planning. Understanding can wait, Elena interrupted, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Right now, I need your trust. When I give the signal, your ships must execute their assigned maneuvers exactly as planned. The timing has to be perfect. Throughout the combined fleet, massive arrays of machinery began to power up. The chronosphere technology was humanity's greatest achievement, a weapon that could manipulate time itself on a stellar scale. They had never dared test it at full power, knowing it would draw the Devourer's attention immediately. Chronosphere arrays at 60% charge, Chen reported, detecting temporal fluctuations in the surrounding space. The Devourers are starting to notice something's wrong. Elena watched as the vast dark shapes of the enemy fleet began to alter course, drawn to the energy readings they couldn't quite detect. The temporal pocket was still hiding the fleet, but the power building within it was becoming too great to conceal completely. Chronosphere at 80%, Chen continued. Commander, the temporal field is beginning to collapse. Elena took a deep breath. Everything hinged on the next few moments. All ships, battle formations. The moment the field fails, execute attack pattern Omega. Ambassador Lyra, signal your fleet. It's time to show the Devourers why they should have stayed in the dark. The temporal field shattered like glass, reality rushing back in as the combined human Araxian fleet revealed itself directly in the path of the Devourer Armada. For a moment, there was absolute stillness as the two forces faced each other across the void. Chronosphere at maximum charge, Chen announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Ready on your command. Elena looked at the tactical display one last time, confirming that every ship was in position. The Araxian vessels had arranged themselves in a complex crystalline formation around the human fleet, their advanced shields resonating in harmony with the chronosphere's energy field. Atlas, Elena commanded, initiate final sequence. All ships, stand by for temporal displacement. The AI's voice was solemn. Warning, chronosphere activation at this scale may cause permanent damage to local spacetime. The effects are potentially catastrophic and irreversible. The Devourers leave us no choice, Elena replied. They've consumed enough civilizations. Today, we show them that humanity and its allies are not prey to be hunted. We are the hunters now. The Devourer fleet surged forward, their void-black forms distorting space around them as they moved to engage. But they were too late. At Elena's command, the chronosphere activated, its energy washing out from the human fleet in a wave of temporal force. Space itself seemed to scream as time was torn apart and rewritten. The Devourers, creatures that existed partially outside normal spacetime, found themselves trapped in a web of temporal energy that even they couldn't escape. Multiple temporal fractures detected, Chen reported, her voice barely audible over the sound of reality straining around them. The Devourers are being pulled into the chronosphere's effect. It's working. Elena watched as the massive dark ships began to break apart, their impossible geometries unable to maintain coherence in the twisted spacetime created by the chronosphere. But the victory came at a terrible cost. The fabric of space itself was beginning to tear. All ships, emergency temporal shift, Elena ordered. Get clear of the disruption zone. The combined fleet engaged their temporal drives, shifting away from the catastrophic collapse of spacetime they had engineered. Behind them, The Devourer fleet was caught in a trap from which there was no escape, a section of space where time itself had become a weapon. As they emerged from the temporal shift, Alina could see the aftermath of their desperate gambit. Where the Devourer fleet had been, there was now a massive temporal anomaly, a wound in space that would take centuries to heal. "Status report," she demanded, scanning the tactical displays for any sign of surviving Devourers. "No signs of Devourer activity," Chen confirmed. "The chronosphere effect appears to have been completely successful. But, Commander, the damage to local spacetime is extensive. This sector will be navigational hazard for centuries." Ambassador Lyra's crystalline form pulsed with a mixture of awe and concern. "What have we done?" "What we had to," Alina replied, watching the swirling temporal anomaly through the main viewport. "We've given the galaxy something it hasn't had in eons, a future without the Devourer's shadow hanging over it. Beyond the void." 6 months after the Battle of the Temporal Void, as historians were already calling it, Alina stood in the newly constructed Galactic Unity chamber on Earth. The vast hall, designed to accommodate representatives from every spacefaring civilization in the known galaxy, was a testament to how much had changed in so little time. Through the quantum blast dome above, she could see ships from 100 different worlds moving through Earth's orbit. The secret was out. Humanity's technological achievements had become the talk of the galaxy, and Earth had transformed from an apparently primitive backwater into the center of a new era of interstellar cooperation. "The temporal anomaly is stable," Lieutenant Chen reported, now wearing the insignia of the newly formed Galactic Defense Force. "The containment field is holding, and our long-range sensors show no signs of Devourer activity anywhere in monitored space." Alina nodded, watching as Ambassador Lyra's crystalline form approached, accompanied by representatives from dozens of other civilizations. The Araxians had become humanity's strongest allies, their crystalline technology proving instrumental in helping other worlds adapt to the new temporal defense systems being installed throughout populated space. "The Council is ready to begin," Lyra announced, her form glowing with formal frequencies. "Though I must admit, some of the older members are still struggling to accept how quickly everything has changed." "Change is what saved us," Alina replied, following the ambassador into the chamber. "The ability to adapt, to embrace the impossible. That's what the Devourers never understood about life. They thought they were the ultimate predators, but they never evolved. Never change. That was their weakness." The chamber filled quickly as representatives took their places. Alina noticed how the different species naturally grouped themselves. Crystalline beings like the Araxians forming geometric patterns, energy-based life forms pulsing in synchronized frequencies, and dozens of other forms of life she was still learning to understand. Atlas materialized at the podium, his holographic form now incorporating elements from various alien technological traditions. "The first session of the Galactic Unity Council is now in session. Commander Vasquez, you have the floor." Alina stepped forward, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. The temporal beacon that had started everything sat in a quantum-sealed case beside the podium, a reminder of the future they had managed to change. "Representatives of the galaxy," she began, her words being translated into hundreds of different languages simultaneously. 6 months ago, we faced an enemy that had hunted civilizations since the beginning of time. We survived not through superior firepower or advanced technology alone, but through unity and adaptation." She gestured to the tactical displays showing the temporal anomaly that had trapped the Devourer fleet. "The weapon we created came at a great cost. A section of our galaxy will remain scared for centuries. But from that sacrifice, we have gained something precious: freedom from fear. The Devourer's threat is contained, and for the first time in millions of years, civilizations can develop without hiding in the shadows." Ambassador Lyra moved to join her at the podium, her crystalline form resonating with Alina's words. "The Araxian Federation stands with Earth. We have seen what becomes possible when we push beyond our limitations, when we challenge our assumptions about what can and cannot be done. Other representatives began to stand, each adding their voices to the chorus of support. Elena felt a surge of pride, not just in humanity's achievements, but in what they had helped create. A true galactic community, united not by fear, but by possibility. But our work is not finished, Elena continued. The temporal beacon showed us more than just the devourers. It showed us possibilities, futures where different species work together to achieve things none of us could manage alone. The chronosphere was just the beginning. Together, we can reshape the very fabric of space and time itself. She activated a holographic display showing the next phase of their plans. Massive engineering projects that would stabilize the temporal anomaly, transform it from a wound in space into a controlled gateway for studying time itself. We still don't know who sent the beacon, Elena admitted. Perhaps they were our descendants from a future we've now prevented. Perhaps they were something else entirely. But they showed us what was possible when we dared to think beyond our limitations. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives began to grasp the full scope of what she was proposing. Elena could see fear in some faces, excitement in others, but most importantly, she saw hope. Atlas's voice cut through the chaos. Motion to establish the Galactic Research Initiative for Temporal Studies. All in favor. The vote was nearly unanimous. As Elena watched the representatives signal their approval, she thought about how far they had come. From a civilization pretending to be primitive to avoid detection, humanity had emerged as a leader in a new age of galactic cooperation. "Commander," Chen whispered, handing her a quantum pad, "we're detecting unusual temporal signatures from the anomaly. They're different from the devourers." Elena studied the readings, a smile slowly spreading across her face. The patterns matched theoretical models for temporal communications. Someone was trying to send a message through time itself. "It seems," she announced to the chamber, "that our work with the beacon has inspired others. The future is reaching out to us again. This time, we'll be ready to answer." As the assembly broke into excited discussion, Elena shared a knowing look with Ambassador Lyra. They had defeated one threat from beyond time and space, but the real adventure, the exploration of what was truly possible when civilizations worked together, was just beginning. The temporal beacon in its case pulsed once, as if in agreement. The future they had fought so hard to create was finally here, and it was more extraordinary than anyone could have imagined.